Aloha, shalom. I wanted to talk about this idea of the power of the mind and the universal mind. The first principle of Hermetics is the principle of mentality. All things begin in the mind. And I think a lot of people who are just beginning on a path to awakening or to understanding this concept of the universal mind and its power, they think, well, the mind, what is the mind without the heart? And they just associate mind with ego. And they think, well, we have to get out of our thinking and out of our rational mind. We have to not think so much and we have to feel. But the mind isn't just ego. The ego is something else. To understand the true power of the mind, is to understand the true power of the heart. When we understand the mind through the heart, or through our feminine nature, or through our intuition, then its true power starts to become clear. I have one of my favorite books here, The Sacred Tarot by C.C. Zane. Aloha, namaste. Good to see you. And he says here, in the occult sciences, the feminine qualities of the mind are often of superior value to the masculine or rational. This is because when we are looking at the feminine qualities of the mind, there already is a balance. Because the feminine is intuition, is the heart, and the mind is the rational or the masculine. So that is why the feminine aspect of the mind is often superior in the study of occult sciences. And that's not to say that women have a greater potential than men to come to this understanding, because both of these forces, masculine and feminine, are within each being. I wanted to read a little bit from the book to further share on the topic. In the practice of magic, Arcanum 11, which is in ancient Egypt known as the Enchantress, in modern times is known as Strength. This arcanum in magic corresponds to thought diffusion. This process, sometimes used maliciously and sometimes used unconsciously, is a dominant factor in our political life and is the means by which the so many occult absurdities and religious imbecilities are kept alive and gain a following. Some strong, self-willed individual elects himself leader and formulates some doctrine, political, occult, religious, or whatnot. This doctrine may or may not contain much of truth, and it may be an earnest conviction, or merely the means by which the leader hopes to further his own unscrupulous ambitions. But in any case, he attracts to himself other mentalities less dominant than his own, who unite with him in promulgating this doctrine. The combined thought force radiates the thought form of the doctrine outward with much force, and it reaches and dominates a number of receptive minds. These, in turn, convinced the doctrine is true, even though they have never subjected it to keen analysis, add their thoughts to the thought form group. So it's sort of like a portal, and it's pulling energies in that are adding to that particular portal, whether you judge that portal as good or bad. And in this manner, the dominant power of the thought form, overpowering reason through emotional energy, a chain is formed extending from the leader as the positive pole, through various links to the masses as the negative pole. Every additional person who accepts the doctrine and becomes its proponent makes its power stronger. As a snowball gains in size as it rolls downhill, so the thought power of such a group of thoughts gains strength with each new adherent. The viciousness of this thought diffusion process is that it works so subtly. It attacks the unconscious minds of people quite unknown to themselves. The vast thought power gives an emotional trend to the unconscious minds of the people it reaches, and this emotional element is often sufficiently strong to override any tendency to use reason or to bring to bear the critical faculties. Thought diffusion, minus the chain effect, is the kind of power used by a high-pressure salesman to sell a customer something for which the customer has no earthly use. But as employed by statecraft or by priestcraft, with the chain effect, it is used to sell the populace whatever ideas those in authority wish people to accept. And these ideas, all too often, are those that support decaying theological dogmas, those that keep people subservient to their exploiting rulers, or which cause Occidental students to accept, in spite of their logical absurdities, certain mystical follies from the Orient as a part of the real secret doctrine. The real adept never utilizes such methods, and the only image he radiates systematically is his own ideal of himself in greater perfection than he has yet attained. And this ideal he receives through reflection from his mate, or the other, which is just a reflection of the one, right? I'm just going to read this one last part. By divination, the attention of the unconscious mind is directed to obtaining information which is not readily accessible to the objective consciousness through external channels. The psychic senses, thus directed, perceive the information sought. This information then resides in the astral brain like a memory. Then, through the divinatory process, whatever it may be, this memory residing now in the unconscious mind is brought up into objective consciousness to be utilized in everyday affairs. So just a little bit about the workings of the feminine aspect of the mind. I think it sheds a lot of light on this higher aspect of the mind and what it truly is. Again, to understand the true power of the mind, a higher mind, one has to have an understanding of the power of the heart. This is the only way. This is why the first principle of Hermetics is the principle of mentality. We don't want to condemn the mind. We are one with this universal mind, and we must understand the nature of mentality so that we can access its divine purpose and make it work for the highest good of us all as one. So don't condemn the mind. It's a gift. It's a part of our nature. And as long as it serves the heart, we're on the right and royal path. Peace.